Welcome back to War Thunder and welcome aboard the BF-109 K4, which is the last BF-109 in the game currently. And the BF-109 K4 is currently in this battle equipped with a 30mm Mk108 cannon with 65 rounds and two 13mm MG131 machine guns, nose mounted as well above the engine, with 600 rounds. It has a really great top speed and so on, but as usual we cannot really rely on the stat card, but it doesn't matter. Currently the BF-109 is a rank 4 battle rating 5.3 vehicle. And this is the battle that I respaded it to get the new 20mm cannon. With the last update, finally the long requested 20mm cannon as a replacement for the 30mm cannon got introduced into the game, and many players wanted to see that for a long time. And this is how the stat card looks with the 20mm. Absolutely no change, except that you now have a 20mm MG151 with 200 rounds. And that greatly increases the fire duration time, and also engaging enemy fighters is easier because of the higher muzzle velocity of the 20mm cannon. But I'm obviously not telling you anything new. In particular, I wanted to show you this battle because it was again one of those battles that, raises the question of, how much skill you need to make a plane that is not very competitive good. Now, why is that? First of all, let's compare this plane to its main opponents that you normally face, Griffin Spitfires and also Bearcats and bombers. And that is where the future controversy will come in, because I think for what the K4 is designed to do, the 30mm is the weapon of choice. And I'm frontally attacking here a B-29, and you can see the relatively bad handling and my bad shooting at the same time. But I just didn't want to get caught in the 50 cal defensive fire hail of this B-29, so I attacked this B-17 frontally. Now the major three complaints about the 30mm is the low muzzle velocity, the limited amount of ammunition, and the high amount of sparking / not dealing the damage that people think it should deal. And in my opinion as well, the damage output of 30mm should be greater. Let's have a look at this attack run. Those were a lot of hits, and the plane didn't really suffer tremendous amounts of damage. Yes, I hit the fuselage. I wanted to aim for the wings, but it doesn't matter. He bends or he rolls to the side, and that is kind of the sign for a bomber that he will go down. And now I'm chasing this B-29. Normally B-29s are really difficult to catch with a BF-109, especially at higher altitudes. We're looking here at over 6,000 meters, and especially when the B-29 pilot is competent. But this one makes a huge mistake. Big spoiler right there. He is actually going for the climb. In fact, 4 bombers were climbing, and this was my usual route, and it took me several minutes to spot the dots. There is the kill on the B-17G. That is a good sign. I still have around about half of my ammunition left, so I can engage another bomber. The next part is a very critical one, and that has to do with the performance. How much fuel do you want to need to take with you? And a little spoiler right there, I will have problems later on in this match with kind of the decisions that I made. The BF-109s live and die by their WEP, their war emergency power, or their emergency power output. But they have one big advantage: they do not really tend to overheat, and their overheating is controllable. But they really consume fuel on a very high rate. And that makes, the decision difficult. 20 minutes of fuel for better performance, but, like when you're constantly weaping, like 15 to 10 minutes of actual flight time on the web, or you take 30 minutes of fuel, and that means you have mostly enough fuel for the entire battle, but you have significantly less performance, in my opinion. Now watch this attack run on this B-29. It's not the most optimal attack run, and my shooting was not superb, but I hit where I needed to hit to make enough damage, and that was very critical. I got hit in the engine block. It's not immediate damage, you know. I have leaks in oil and water, so I have enough time at the current state of the engine to go home. But what I see on kind of the on the leaderboard is not very encouraging. We have not killed a lot of the enemies. There is one more, but the enemies have really wiped us out up until this point really hard. And I see a lot of beer cats circling around near the vicinity of our airfield, so yeah. But again, to the fuel. Griffin Spitfires have the same problem, but they actually consume more fuel under, web. But, they have no problems taking 30 minutes of fuel and still outperforming you in every respect. Here is again the deal. The Bf-109 can't turn with a Spitfire. Some say it can, but then you have to trade altitude, and then you have to use flaps that slow you down furthermore, and that is no guarantee that the Spitfire pilot just counters it by doing the same and still being better. Then the Spitfire, the Griffins, have vicious acceleration. They are very good at acceleration. All of them. Even when stock, they outperform, an upgraded K4. Not by much, but when they're upgraded, they totally outclass it. Now I hear the engine roaring a little bit, and I hit the Bearcat a little bit with the 13mm, and watch this. I tried to zoom away with 700, he made a perfect loop, and he is behind me. But I have so much energy advantage, speed advantage, that I can escape and actually have a vector going home with a very wide turn. And he turns away, so that's good. That gives me enough breathing space to actually go home. And let's compare it also to the Bearcat and the Spitfire. Both are more maneuverable than the Bf-109 K4. Both have, when flown correctly by a semi-competent pilot, better climbing performances under the same circumstances. So with air spawn, or when all three of the planes start from the airfield. So they have just better climb rate. Furthermore, they have just simply more firepower, more reliable firepower, and they are even better in head-on engagements. Technically, yes, the Bf-109 is better because having all the firepower centralized, but then the instructor comes in. And at this point, I'm not, trying to complain or whatsoever. It's just how it is. We have to deal with it since the beginning of time. As long as I can remember, Bf-109s were that in War Thunder, Realistic. They're completely different in arcade though, and that is where the big difference, in my opinion, to the K4 comes from, because I spotted it in arcade, and in arcade this was a pure powerhouse. It still was completely inferior to Spitfires of all sorts and Bearcats and so on, and especially the Japanese planes. Oh wow, N1Ks in arcade, holy Jesus. And the fact that I liked it was purely down to the bomber spam. And the 30mm was once reliable when I spaded this plane. The 30mm was really the doom hammer. I'm not joking, it once worked. A few hits were enough to blow apart any opponent, and there were not a lot of sparks. Except if you hit him with the incendiary shell. But that is a different topic. Now here I'm going to my first landing. I need fuel, I need ammunition, I need repairs of the engine, and then I see that 4 enemies are left, and we have an ME for 10, B6R3, and I guess, oh, he got shot down just now, and also we have the, what was it? The Tempest Mark 5, the premium, the German premium, is also in hot pursuit of a Bearcat. And they are currently going to the edge of the map, as you will see in a moment. So it is kind of questionable how the beautifull 9K4 deserves its battle rating in this respect. But again, it can hold itself when flown by very competent pilot that fly together, you know, with wingmans that know how to bait, that also know how defensive flying works, and when the opponents are just too overconfident and take the bait. And this is how it mostly happens. I personally feast on bombers, especially on Norway. You know, you always have the excuse, well, I'm defending my objective. Most of the time the bombers don't have the bomb load to actually take out the base, and when you take out one of them, they surely have not. As long as they are not approaching with 4 B-29s or something like that. Furthermore, Norway, as I mentioned at the beginning, has cool air. I mentioned this so many times. This and also the air spawn is really nice. That also, in combination with the sheer size of the maps, give the German planes enough room to move around, which they actually need. On smaller maps, German planes usually do not perform that well. And I'm last man standing against 4 enemies. So, and here it begins, the dubious decision. How can you win a X versus 1 engagement? Well, the problem is the K4 has limited amounts of options. But there is one big advantage that I have right now, and that is the points advantage. What I'm currently trying to do is to single them out and trying to defeat them in a 1 versus 1. And I remember where the Tempest with the Bearcat went, and I'm flying in the general direction using the actually pretty good climb rate. And don't get me wrong, the K4 has an amazing climb rate. In the long run, it's just not as good as on the Bearcat and the Griffin Spitfires, which also have better high altitude performance in my opinion, especially when we come to the indicated airspeed and how it affects the instructor, and you know how your plane wobble around when you try to maneuver with the enemy. You know, boom and zooming is a nice thing, but what can you do when the enemy is above you or even at the same altitude? You know, and that is just the advantage that Spitfires and Bearcats have. So you have to think outside of the box. I have a points advantage. There are 4 enemies. I am freshly repaired. I have enough fuel. My engine is not damaged. My plane is completely fresh out of the box, so to speak. Probably the enemy isn't, or at least not all 4 of them. That's what I'm hoping for. And there we get it. The Bearcat crashed. He was damaged previously by a Tau 152H. So now it is a 3 versus 1. And that is so much better, especially because it took down a Bearcat. Bearcats are fantastic planes. I love to fly them myself. A shame that they are American planes and you have to suffer through other team members' dubious decisions to take out too many bombers and to ground strike with their fighters. That's how it is. I mean, this is not me complaining, this is just saying this is how it is. And I have to kind of count on this. And the beautifull 9K4 furthermore doesn't have the option that, for example, I had in a very unique battle where I won 5 versus 1 by bombing out the enemy base, dropping the last required 250 kilogram bomb on the enemy base. This is how I won a 5 versus 1, alright? The beautifull 9 doesn't have the option. The only option that you have is to mount 2 additional 20mm gun ports. Are they worth it? Yes and no. I mean, it was always a preferred kind of weapon setup for me in arcade. 2 20mm gun ports and 1 30mm nose mounted. It was very, very disastrous and you could reload all the time. So that's arcade. Also you had great flight performance, you could retreat from the battle, teamwork was really great. it required a lot of discipline because many people did not know how to really play arcade. But you know, since then things have changed and arcade is ruined for me because of decisions made by Gaijin. You know, regarding the how it works with the playstyle, and you know how immensely frustrating bombers are in arcade. Now here I have the only thing that I really can do is kind of climbing to 7,000 meters. Everything above 7,000 meters is not really worth it, and wait for some combat messages. Now as you could see, we're already 20 minutes into the battle. I cut out 4 minutes at the start of the video, something like that. And yeah, I'm just hovering around, observing the surrounding. Are there some black dots? And there comes the message, new targets for elimination appeared. Now this is a tempting bait for the enemy. At least I respect it as such. It has absolutely no value, me going for them. I have not enough ammunition for them, it will take me too long to take them down, and even then I wouldn't profit from taking down the enemy. I already have the points advantage. Now it's the enemy's turn to take around that. And here comes the problem, it's a 3 versus 1. Where are the other 3 people? I have no idea, I don't see them, I don't want to blow my Avenger or Blind Hunt right now, you know, because it will take for a time and then you can't use it for a second time, the same award that is. And also you don't get them too often, so you have to use them very carefully. Again, it's questionable, do you actually want to use them? You know, is it kind of fair? Some say yes, some say no. Against the last bomber, it's obviously the one thing that you want. And there is the Spitfire, and it's a Griffin one, going for the landing crafts. And I see the flag, you know, directly showing me where that guy is, you know, narrowing the area where I have to search for the black dot. And I'm slowly descending from altitude. That is kind of the disadvantage of the B109, that it really doesn't build down energy, which is kind of awkward because I said it has slow energy retention. Well, it is very fast, you know, deaccelerating into a speed area where it doesn't turn anymore. But it also has a lot of overspeed issues. I'm convinced that other BF-109s wouldn't have that stiffening at this speed, but I have to test it out. But it doesn't matter. This Spitfire is at such a low energy state and turning over our ships that, you know, I have the definite advantage. I must not screw it up right now. This is very important. I traded all the altitude for that potential 1 kill. And there he makes his mistake. He doesn't turn into me. That would have been his choice. And he kind of pulls up. As much sparking as there might be, as unreliable as the 13mm might be, as much as the BF-109 is in a disadvantage stat-wise versus a Spitfire, that was a pure player mistake. That allowed me to make the kill, and now I have to get the hell out of there. The enemy saw me engaging this guy. They eventually also saw me disengaging while this guy was still burning, and there are 2 left. No, it's just 1. What happened to the other guy? And then I know I can activate the blind hunt, and he's behind me. 7 kilometers out, same altitude. So what to do? What to do? Now at this moment I have like 9 minutes left of fuel, and you can see how fast I run through it. So it's probably more like 5 minutes of effective combat time on the web, and I need the web. If I want to build up any advantage against an F8F, I want to do it. And now it kind of gets dubious. What should I do? Now at this moment he kind of lost interest. He saw my thought. I want to get back to the airfield. Not really for rearming and refueling. you know, I just want to bait him into an area where I could potentially run away into the AAA field. I'm not saying sorry for that thought, because this is just how you can win in this situation. I'm not confident in the plane's abilities to fight off a Bearcat. No way. Not when we have nearly the same energy state. Bearcats are monstrous aircraft with extremely good turning capabilities, with monstrous firepower, a lot of ammunition, and also a very, very, very strong engine. So it would be stupid to directly go for him. And so he follows me again. I'm constantly checking my surrounding and also look up stuff on the leaderboard. It's a 1 versus 1 endgame scenario. And I'm running through my fuel so fast that I actually said to myself, okay, I need the fuel. He already does have the advantage, despite having, you know, the same energy state. He's roughly a few hundred meters above me, but that is enough to make my plane kind of obsolete. And I'm not counting on this enemy being a bad player. So I think he's not stupid enough to go into the AAA field, or the area where the AAA is effective. On the other hand, there is a second thought that arises. We are so far into the battle. What is it with his fuel situation? Now the enemy has captured the middle airfield, so he might have had the chance to refuel. And we are so far into the battle that I don't know how his state is. And this is the entire thought process, just to show you how long it takes. I'm not cutting out too much here, just kind of the landing process. Now I'm cutting out here the landing process, and when I'm back in the air I show you. So, and we're starting off again. And here is the thing. He has now the ultimate altitude advantage. What I'm now doing is spiral climbing above my airfield. But he goes for an aggressive dive. That means he wants me. He tries to catch me off guard. But again, I have an eye on him. So that is, I fly through the kind of artificial anti-aircraft bubble that my airfield creates. And now, that is the critical part, I turn into him. I turn into him so he can't pursue me. And I make evasive actions. I'm not interested in a head-on or, you know, wasting ammunition. And by being so much slower, I actually can outturn him. But again, the instructor just threw me off target. I try to spray him and I see that he is smoking. But I'm not pursuing him. It's still a Bearcat. But when I make it 1 or 2 times more, I can inflict so much damage and potentially get so much advantage over him that I can take him on. And now this is where I follow him, but I don't dive directly towards him. I build up speed. And now he makes the mistake of turning around with a damaged engine. He could have escaped, and now I pop my smoke and just signalize him, fight me. But I'm making it not easy for him, and he turns away. But he makes it smart. He hides behind the mountain, just not showing me where he is. You know, even the marker isn't there. But I see that he turned around, and now I turn around as well. And now I think there is enough damage done to his engine by time that I can take pressure on him. If he fights me right now, I just can play very defensively and just wait until the point where his engine is so down that he is no more danger to me. And now I actually have so much altitude advantage that I feel confident in fighting him. Now this is kind of gathering the unfair advantage by using the airfield. I know it's not glorious, but you know, if you fight glorious with German planes, you die in a glorious fireball, or you have 1 wing less. and watch him zoom climb. This is the power of the Bearcat, but his engine is damaged, so he can't pull up that hard. Maybe he's even stuck. And I follow him up. And that was a 30mm hit that actually registered on the right wing. He rolls down, and that is my 4th kill right there. So, Shadow Strike streak times 4. Was this a nice game to look at? Was this an amazing game? Not really. However, I got away with it. I got the kills. If you want to look for aggressive, kind of playstyle, you can fly the Russians, you can fly the Japanese ones, the Bearcats, or all of the Spitfires. All other aircraft, when having to face those mentioned aircraft, have to put a lot of thinking into their fighting and actually count on the enemy's overconfidence. A quick look at the post-battle results show that for the 4 aircraft we destroyed, 2 bombers, 2 fighters, we got 109,000 silver lines and 6,140 modification research points. No vehicle research point boosters applied because I'm currently not researching anything. So that was a really good battle. Last man standing is also a nice award. Nearly 3,000 score points, putting me on 1st place. So for me personally, that was a refreshing battle. I had enough battles previously where I sparked off the enemy and got shot down in the first engagement that I had, either by losing the climbing battle and getting forced to fly defensively, or taking the head-on and losing it as well by getting hit once while I spark off the enemy. So, and the basic message in this battle is confidence in your capabilities and also knowing the limits of your aircraft and counting on the impatience of the enemy. And that is how you make a not very good aircraft work within War Thunder RRB. So that's it for me today. So thanks for watching, thanks for listening. Let me know in the comment section what you think about this video and about, again, the situation here on Norway and your experiences with the new 20mm if you have unlocked it. And give this video a like if you did, subscribe if you want to see more, and we will see each other in the skies of War Thunder.